for President Obama and against the GOP. Joining me now is Congressman Jim McDermott, Democrat from Washington, and Melissa Harris Perry, host of the Melissa Harris Perry Show. Thank you both for coming on the show.
Great pleasure.
Congressman, I want to put DeMint comment up again. Quote, the best thing to declare last year's election as a mistrial on Obamacare. How do you respond to that?
Well, you know, Rev, it's kind of sad. They've run the let's run the country over the cliff strategy, and that didn't work. And so they're now back at the second one of the Republican strategies, that is, let's impeach the president. That's exactly what they did to Clinton. And they are going to fail at this. They simply believe that it's an impeachable offense if they don't agree with it. The Supreme Court has looked at it and declared it to be constitutional, and yet they keep coming back. And right now, you may know, they have already started filing lawsuits all over the country. There have been 20-some lawsuits filed in different states about different aspects of the Affordable Care Act. They're going to use every bit of mud they can throw to get something to stick. And the president just keeps shaking it off and keeps moving forward.
But this is what they've taken out of this week, Melissa. They're trying to just in any way possible just act as though this is not a legitimate president. And I think that we're seeing that it's now become just naked and raw to the American public. They just don't want to accept this president as president.
Well, I think because what they recognize, the effectiveness of what they are doing is they can, in fact, declare his second term a mistrial in the sense of moving us to governing by crisis to crisis, every 3 months, every 4 months, and then the president never will have an opportunity to actually enact a second policy agenda. So what I want to remember is sort of what were that first term, if we divide it into those first 2 years when the president had a Democratic House and a Democratic Senate, and we look at the policy activism of those 2 years, and that president with that Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, had the most effective, efficient, and important, probably in post-World War II history, congressional session. That 2010 midterm happens, and ever since we have gone to governing by crisis with the goal of whether they actually impeach the president or not, effectively impeaching him by making it impossible for him to do anything more than simply keep the lights on in Washington.
And see, that's the point, Congressman. All that we keep hearing, as Melissa just pointed out, about impeachment blocks us from getting to the legislation and the policies this president had wanted to pursue in a second term. Watch this.
We want all tools available to use, including the impeachment.
If we were to impeach the president tomorrow, you could probably get the votes of the House of Representatives to do it.
People may be starting to use the I word before too long.
Okay, the I word meaning impeachment.
Yeah.
I've had lawyers come in, and these are lawyers, Welcher, PhDs in history. I said, tell me how I can impeach the President of the United States.
To successfully impeach the President, you need the votes of the U.S. Senate. With Harry Reid, the Democrats controlling the Senate in Kansas.
You have to establish the criteria that would qualify for proceedings against the President, and that's called impeachment.
Now, these are senators and your colleagues in the House of Representatives, Congressman. With this continual talking about impeachment, it does in many ways obstruct moving forward on an agenda that the president wanted to lay out in his second term.
There's no question about it, Rev. They simply want to keep the circus going and it's like a magician who snaps his fingers in one place so you won't see what he's doing with his other hand. They are basically trying to keep the president from doing anything on jobs or on immigration or on climate change or any other issue that the American people are facing, or pensions or anything. As long as they can keep this impeachment circus going, why, nobody will pay any attention. And what is happening right underneath them is that Obamacare is being put in place.
Melissa, you know what makes this even more striking is that former Senator Jim DeMint used to actually love Obamacare.
Yeah.
But it was back when it was called Romneycare. Listen to this.
Exactly.
One thing that the former governor did up in Massachusetts, Senator, is he was able to, without raising taxes, make sure that everybody in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts wound up with health insurance.
Well, that's something that I think we should do for the whole country. Probably over 20 states now that are trying to copy what he did, and that's a good sign that people think he's on the right track.
So here we are this week, ending a crisis of a government shutdown over the president passing exactly what DeMint said we should do all over the country. Because Obamacare and Romneycare are basically the same principles and the same kinds of policies. DeMint now helps to encourage the shutdown of the government, 16 days, billions of dollars, threatens the government in terms of debt limit over what they believed in. This is all about Obama.
Yeah, right. And I think where you came to at the end is really the point. If this were about policy, if it were about a fundamental core belief that there was a set of policies that would deeply impact and harm our country, as much as I disagree with this strategy, I might be able to have some respect for it. I mean, you know, it's not the set of policies I would have anger about, but I can imagine, right, in the sort of possibility of governing, that something could be so awful that you would say, you know what, we can't even move forward as a country. Right. But that is not what this is. At all. And we have evidence of that from the close relationship between Romneycare and Obamacare, and the fact that so many of these people now screaming impeachment, screaming shutdown, willing to move towards the precipice of default, were supporters of Romneycare.
Congressman, when you look at the fact that the president said the ultimate thing, if you want to change laws, he told the GOP, win elections. Look at this.
You don't like a particular policy or a particular president? Then argue for your position. Go out there and win an election. Push to change it. But don't break it. Don't break what our predecessors spent over 2 centuries building.
Congressman, does this come down to 2014, next year's election, after all we went through in the last 16 to 18 days? Does it come down to where will the election go for a new Congress next year?
It really comes down, Rev, to this. Will the American people remember how reckless and how uncaring the Republicans really were in their willingness to run the country into the ground to take away health care from people? Because they said that was it. If we would defund Obamacare, they would be happy. And now they'd let everything else go on if we would just... So this was all about hurting people, and they were recklessly willing to trade the whole economy over this kind of recklessness. Amazing. If the American people forget it in 2014, they do it at their own risk. They have to change some of these people.
Congressman McDermott, Melissa Harris Perry, thank you both for your time.